I keep getting lost jamming out to that music in between these sessions.
Yeah, I know, right?
Cool. We are back. Glad to see everybody back here after that amazing session with Quincy. And this time around, I am joined by our very own Edidiong Asikpo, formerly of Hashnode, now a developer advocate at AmbassadorLabs. Didi, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, this is great. Um, so we've got I know you've got to get the heck out of here in about 52 minutes. So
Yes.
I'm going to hand the reins over to you to give your talk, and then with whatever time we've got left, we'll open up the floor for questions from the audience. So without further
Awesome.
ado, please please take over and let's hear what you got.
Awesome. Thank you. Let me share my screen. I think I could share like a Chrome tab. Yeah, this works. Can you please confirm if you can see my screen? How do I check that? And come back here. No. Okay. Yes, I can see some yes over there. All right, cool. Thank you everyone for joining the session. If you have any questions, you can just drop them in Q&A section and I will try to answer as much as I can at the end of the session. Yeah, so writing is a great way to consolidate knowledge for yourself and for others through your words. And even though technical writing is primarily concerned with like sharing knowledge, sharing your knowledge or expertise with people, it is also a great way for you to reinforce your learning, show your knowledge to a potential employer, or also be known as someone who is really knowledgeable about a particular framework or programming language in the developer community. In this talk, I'm going to cover the concept of technical writing. I'll explain necessary skills you need to have to delve into technical writing as a developer, um, how to get started, and some career opportunities that people who write can benefit as well. My name is Edidiong Asikpo. I am a developer advocate at Hashnode, and developer advocate at AmbassadorLabs. I feel like I'm so used to saying Hashnode all the time. But yeah, I'm a developer advocate at AmbassadorLabs, and I also contribute to VLC, which is an open source organization, as a technical writer. So, I mean, we're talking about what technical writing is today, right? Trying to understand it. And I think the first thing we need to know or really get is what exactly is technical writing? I mean, you need to know what it means, right, for you to now decide to get started in it. And I think about a year ago or so, I just really wanted to find a really great explanation for what technical writing meant. And I did lots and lots of Googling, saw different interesting definitions, right? But then the one that really stood out for me was this one you're seeing on my screen by a website named Grammar. It defines technical writing as a type of writing where the author is writing about a particular subject that requires direction, instruction, or explanation, right? So I'm writing something that I need to like direct people on how to achieve a certain thing. So it could be, hey, okay, so let's say I'm writing an article about these airports, right? Technical writing would be me saying, oh, hey, this airport is a cool airport, right? And then I'm literally directing you on how to use this airport. So from things like, hey, you need to open it, then turn on your iPhone, connect it, do this and do that. So technical writing isn't just any type of writing, the type of writing that gives the reader either direction to achieve something, instructions on how to do something, or detailed explanation on how something works. So think of it as an efficient and clear way to explain how something is and how it works. Over the years, I've seen a lot of people talk about this, right? A lot of people talk about, hey, a writer's born, a writer's made. People who don't write say, okay, hey, I can't write because I wasn't born with the skill of writing. And then they believe that anybody who is currently writing now is writing because they were born with the skill of writing. So I'm a bit curious on what side you stand. Do you think writers are born or made? Can you share your thoughts in the chat? So if you think writers are born, just reply or just type in born. If you think writers are made, then just type in made. So I'll give like 1 minute to read through your thoughts on that before I go ahead and continue. So if you think writers, I mean, you can be both, right? If you think writers are both born and made, then you can just type in born and made. All right, cool. I'm definitely seeing a lot of people on like the made, a lot of people saying both. And okay, I don't think I've seen anybody say just born. Like I've seen born and made. I've seen made. All right, cool, cool. Thank you so much for responding. It's great to know your thoughts, right? Because that's going to help us throughout this section. So I was curious about this, right? So I made a tweet about this sometime in 2020 to hear people's thoughts. And there were lots of interesting perspectives, but then I took a screenshot of three of them, three ones that I thought was cool and added them here. So I'll just quickly work through those three thoughts and share my general overview of whether I think writers are either born or made. So the first one is by Blessing Raibu. She says, I think writers are born and made. So she doesn't believe that she's not necessarily picking a side. She's like, yeah, writers are born and writers are also made as well. And then she says, writing is a skill and can be developed over time. And then writing also comes naturally to certain people. So for those that are born with it, then it comes naturally to them. For those that are not born with it, then they can actually learn how to become better writers, something of sort. That's what Blessing is saying. And then there's another by again, which says they are made. He doesn't believe that writers are born. He's on the side that writers are made, just like some of you here. And then he said that even if you're born with inherent potential to write without practice, there isn't much difference between you and someone who hasn't written a word before. So let's assume Sam was born with the skill of writing, yeah, and I wasn't born with the skill of writing, but both of us haven't written a word before. There's really no difference between both of us. I don't know if that makes sense. Yeah, Sam was born with the skill, but he hasn't written before. So who knows whether he was born with the skill of not or not? Who does he even know if he can write? And then there's me on the other hand, who strongly believes that I can't write because I wasn't born with the skill, right? And at that point, there's really no difference between Sam and I, right? So let me use another example. The game of football, right? Football is, I like to think, is one of the most popular sports in the world. And we have like tons of footballers, right? But then there are two footballers that almost everybody knows. Almost everybody, whether you play football or not, whether you like football or not, you've probably heard about Messi or Ronaldo at some point in your life. Can you say, if you've heard about Messi or Ronaldo, say yes or no? If you've not heard about any of them, then say no. Okay, I'm seeing people say CR7. Yes, CR7, right? I mean, I definitely just prefer Messi, but yeah, Ronaldo is awesome as well. All right, cool, cool, cool. So Messi and Ronaldo are like two of the best footballers in the world. Almost everybody knows them. So think of it this way: what if neither Messi or Ronaldo ever kicked a football in the world, kicked a football throughout the entire time in the world? Do you think Messi or Ronaldo would be known to be who they are today? Let me take a step back. So let's say when Messi was small, he never saw football or he never kicked it because he believed that I wasn't born with the skill of football, so there's no point to kick it. Do you think he would have kicked it and then realized that, oh, this thing actually comes naturally to him? And would he eventually become the person he's known to be today? Yes or no? Like in the chat. All right, cool. I'm seeing lots of no's. Awesome. Exactly. So that basically means that whether you're born with the skill of writing or not, you won't actually know if you are, except you actually take a step to write, right? And then if you now realize that you're not born with that skill, there's still room for you to become better. I like people think of Messi as the one who is just naturally talented with playing football, and then they think of Ronaldo as the one who has the talent, but then also really works hard as well. So let's assume Ronaldo didn't have the talent. He worked really hard to get to where he was, right? And then Messi, on the other hand, had the talent, but also had to do something to discover that he had the talent. I don't think that makes sense. Right. And then Dami, on the other hand, also says that he relates to Made. And then he talks about some of the different ways that writing has helped him improve his career in school over time. And then if you ask me, I would not necessarily disagree that writers are born or made. I don't think I have a side. But then I know for sure that I wasn't born with the skill of writing. And I'll tell you why. Um, there was a point in my life where I was super conscious about not sharing my thoughts. So I could be in like a meeting or be having a conversation with a group of people and have like an idea to share. But I won't share that idea because I'm just like, they won't really understand what I'm saying. Would they be able to like read out what I'm saying and understand it? Like I just thought that I never knew how to write. Just it just made me lose out on so many opportunities, right? And then one day I was like, nah, 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 I really need to be more intentional about being able to write. Yeah. And then one of the first things I did was stop writing in short forms. I don't know how many people write in short forms, but I tell you that it impacts the way you speak, it impacts the way you write over time. Because you can be writing a really professional document or something now, and you not know when you've literally used like a short form, right? So if you were chatting with me on like WhatsApp or Twitter 4 years ago, instead of, so let's say I want to type like tell you how are you, right? I would literally spell the exact words. For how, I would use HW because I mean how, HW can also sound like how, yeah. And then for R, which is ARE, I'll literally type the letter R. And then for you, which is YOU, I'll literally use the word, the letter U. That's how I used to write. And then over time, it made me realize that I couldn't even spell like really basic words anymore because I was always using short forms, right? And then when I stopped doing that, it helped a lot. I started reading a lot more. That also helped. But what specifically pushed me to start writing was when I saw this quote that said, you only learn how to write by writing. So that made me understand that even if I stopped writing in short form, even if I started reading a lot more, there was no way I could actually become better at writing if I didn't start writing. Yes, my first write up might have sucked, but if I continue writing over time, then it meant that there was a chance for me to improve. And I can boldly say that writing as a software developer has helped me achieve lots and lots of things over time. And also, aside from that, has also helped me really understand certain things that I had no clue about before I started writing them. So, one basic trying to say in this session is whether you believe you're born with the skill of writing or not, you can actually write. And how you can start to just, I mean, open your Google Docs or open hashnode.com and start writing. Awesome. So now that we understand what technical writing is, let's try to discuss some of the skills you need to become a technical writer or a software developer who writes technical articles. And the first skill for me is writing. I know it might seem weird that writing is a skill you need to have to become a technical writer, but there are different types of writing. There's like prose, fiction, name it, there's tons and tons of them. And I like to think every human who can write already has the skill of writing because you communicate to people on WhatsApp, you post tweets on Twitter, you do like I mean, whatever it is, any form of communication whatsoever is what writing is. And writing, think of writing as a way to put down your thoughts, right? And then technical writing, on the other hand, is not just putting down your thoughts, but sharing the reasons behind those thoughts or directions on how to achieve that particular thing. So let's talk about these airports again. Writing could be me sending a message to Sam and saying, "Oh, Sam, gosh, these airports are just so no." Okay, I could say, "Sam, these airports make developers unproductive." That's writing. But technical writing, on the other hand, would mean not just saying airports make developers unproductive, but explaining why, like explaining logical thoughts, logical reasons behind why I think airports make developers unproductive. Maybe giving steps on how developers can set up their airports to see why I think they are unproductive, right? I don't know if that makes sense. So writing is just, yeah, I'm putting down thoughts, telling you how are you, or just communicating. But in technical writing is still communicating, but then in a more logical manner or in a way that you're literally helping someone achieve a certain thing or understand something. And then the next skill you need to have is audience perception. This is very important because you need to understand who you're writing for, right? Are you writing for a beginner? Are you writing for an intermediate or an expert? Because if you're writing for an expert, for instance, oh no, let's use a beginner. If you're writing for a beginner and you use like really big words or things that beginners may not understand, it means that the audience you're writing for beginners would actually not understand what you're saying. So audience perception is being able to think, okay, who am I writing this thing for? Who is going to read it? Who is going to benefit from it? And then tailor your article to fit that particular audience. You'll probably be wondering, okay, yeah, audience perception, but how can I actually know who my audience is? And these are the questions I need you to ask yourself to identify your audience. The first one is, what do they need? Think about it. The person coming to read this article, do they want a very simple explanation? Do they just want the code snippet? Do they want in-depth explanation on how you actually achieve that particular thing, right? Because once you do that, you won't end up writing something for someone who actually wants a in-depth explanation, right? So, and I think it might be a bit confusing to know who what they need before you actually write the article. But I think a great way that I've noticed has worked for me over the years is trying to tailor the topic of your article to fit a particular thing. So that means don't name your article a deep dive into React and then only talk about how to render elements in React. Because what you're doing there is disappointing people who want to have an in-depth understanding of React and only targeting the audience who just want something specific. I don't know if that makes sense. So once you decide what they actually need, you can tailor your article's topic to that, and then the content as well would also fit into that particular audience. And then there are questions like, where would they be reading it? Would they be reading it on their mobile phone or on their like laptops, right? I mean, I think developers are more likely to always read on their laptops because I mean we're always on our laptops almost of the time. And then there are other things like, when would they be reading? Is it when they just wake up in the morning, or when they're like really rushing to find something immediately to solve a problem, right? That would mean that you also need to go straight to the point and not go too in depth or like beat around the bush, this kind of stuff. Where would they be reading it and how would they be reading it? Once you answer these following questions, you'll be able to tailor, okay, hey, is this article for a beginner? Is it for an expert? Is it for an intermediate? Or is it just a general article that can be useful for any person? And then the next skill you need to have is technical skill. Like I mentioned, this is technical writing, not just any other kind of writing. So you need to have, okay, I don't know if there's something wrong. Can anybody still see my slide? I heard some sound. No, slides are gone. Okay, I wonder what happened. Let me stop presenting and try to present again. Okay, can you see now? I had some weird sound. Okay, I think it's back up. Okay, awesome. Sorry about that. I don't know what I did. All right, cool. So yeah, like I said, technical skill is something you need to have. So for instance, let's say you want to write an article about how to use React. You need to have a significant level of experience with React in order to write that article. There's this interesting quote by Albert Einstein that says, if you can't explain it to a 6-year-old, you don't understand it yourself. Meaning that if you don't understand something well enough to explain it to a 6-year-old, for instance, it means that you actually don't understand that thing at all. And you actually need to understand what you're saying before you say it to people, because you don't want to pass like wrong information to other people or spread things that are not necessarily true. And by saying that, I'm in no way saying that you need to be an expert in a field for you to write. No, that's absolutely not true. You can write, like I mentioned at the beginning of this talk. Yes, technical writing is to share your experience and what you've learned with others, but then it's also a way for you to learn as well. You can decide to write an article just for the purpose of learning. I mean, you can decide to say, okay, hey, I don't know how to use green sock, or I don't know how to use, let's say, Kubernetes, for instance. But because I want to know how to use Kubernetes, let me write an article on introduction to Kubernetes. What this would make you do is literally research about that topic effectively, understand that topic well enough, and then explain that topic in your words to other people. I mean, an instance would be, this article I wrote about GSOP scroll trigger plugin in React. And I've always seen so many interesting projects on GSAP, right? People using JavaScript and HTML and CSS to build really awesome stuff. And I was like, yeah, I'd love to add these animations into my React applications. And then one day I tried to Google it, but then didn't find any article about it really. Every article that I found was just, oh, hey, this is scroll trigger, but none of them was actually focused on React. Sorry, excuse me. I mean, the documentation was there, but then it was also at a very general level. And I had no clue what it were. I've never used GreenSock animation before, talk less of using the actual plugin. So I decided to write that article for the purpose of learning, right? And then also being able to like share knowledge, because there was no other article out there. So I started learning how to use the GreenSock plugin first as an animation, then eventually diving into scroll trigger. And at the end of writing that article, I realized that I was able to learn so much, learn it well enough to even explain it to other people. And after I published the article, the folks at GreenSock even added it to their learning center, which is great because, again, I had no clue what this thing was, but I used the process of writing an article about it to actually understand it. No, I wasn't copying and pasting things from the documentation. I actually tried to understand it well enough to explain it to a 6-year-old before I converted it into an article. So that's where research comes in. Before you start writing something, you can start writing something whether you have significant level about knowledge about that thing or not. It's like it's not a blocker. It's awesome if you really understand it, it's great. But then you can use the process of writing to now understand that thing so that by the end of your article you can boldly say, hey, I understand this thing to a certain level, or I can explain this thing to somebody else, right? And then research is an interesting thing, really. You can either Google, ask people on Twitter, ask your colleagues, ask your friends, or anybody you have that you can ask these kind of questions. And I love this last line that says, simply put, Google the hell out of things. Google and Google as much as you can to actually really understand what you're saying before you pass the information to somebody else. And then the last and final skill is have a unique voice. I know that is really, I mean, as much as it's important to read other people's work and be inspired by what you're doing, it's also good to not lose yourself in the process. And I'm going to tell you why. Most often than not, the articles we write are articles that are already written by other people. I mean, there's already a resource on those things. Sometimes they might not be, but most of the time there's already a resource on that. And have you ever wondered that even when you go ahead to still write that article, there's still someone somewhere sometimes that still reads the article and be like, oh wow, okay, I now really understand this thing. I never really understood it before. I don't know if that's ever happened to any of you. If it has, say yes. If he hasn't, then maybe don't. Maybe you can say no as well. That's cool too. Okay. So if he has, say yes. If you haven't, you can just say no. Awesome. So you can basically see that even though, and then you probably want to, okay, hey, did these people not find those articles online? They probably did, but they still didn't understand it. And then what that basically means is everybody has a unique voice. Let's say there are 100 people in the world, right? And Sam and I are the only people who know how to write articles. Yeah. I can write an article. Let's say we write an article about the same topic, right? 50 people out of those 100 people would understand what I'm saying because they tend to relate to my own unique voice, right? And then the other 50 people would have understood what Sam was saying in his own unique voice. But because Sam liked how I write my articles, he decided to use the same way, like use my own voice, sort of, so to speak, to write my article. Meaning that these other 50 people that were remaining in the world could not still understand this concept because Sam robbed them of his unique voice. I don't know if that makes sense. No offense, Sam. I'm just explaining something. So what I'm trying to say here in essence is your voice is unique, right? And then there are people who would understand what you're saying and not understand what I'm saying. There are people who have been trying to understand one particular concept but never understand it until you write the article, so to speak. And then a quick example of this is when I wanted to write this article titled what was the name of the article? Something about how to manipulate JavaScript with the DOM. And truth be told, that is a topic that almost every web developer, maybe front-end developer should know. So there are so many resources on that topic, so many resources. And before I published that article, I was like, would anybody even read it? Like, what's the point? There are like so many other articles and videos and resources about this thing. So why do I still have to write the article? And I was like just doubting myself for a couple of like maybe days, but I decided to still publish the article. And then the interesting thing about this was that the article got like lots of retweets and likes on Twitter. I think over like 600 and something. And at the time, I didn't really have a lot of following like I do right now, right? And then you could see people saying things like, "Hey, I never really understood how to manipulate the DOM until I read this article," and giving some other interesting, really nice comments. I think I got like over 200 plus followers that day because of that article. And then I was like, this was the article I did not want to publish. This was the article that I thought already had so many other resources, right? But then I realized that my unique voice speaks to certain people. Sam's unique voice will speak to certain people. Fazl's unique voice will speak to certain people. Like, however you are, right? There's someone somewhere in the world who would understand what you're saying more than any other person, right? So always try to maintain your unique voice. And we've covered what technical writing is. We've also covered the necessary skills you need to have to delve into technical writing. And before I explain how to get started, I want to mention that you don't need to have all of those skills to get started. There can be things you can start learning in the process. Maybe you don't know how to research a lot, start doing it. And over time, you see that you now know how to research. Maybe you're not really familiar with React. Start writing about React. And over time, you realize, oh, I don't know why this stuff is still disconnecting and reconnecting. But let me try to reshare again. Start writing articles about React and you'd see that you would be more comfortable with React over time. So, how can you get started with technical writing? The first thing I would recommend is taking a course on technical writing. I know a lot of people don't do this, they just jump right into writing, which is okay. But then these courses have been written by people who are really knowledgeable about the topic with 10 to 20 years of experience. And using those courses would help you understand so many things that you never had a clue about. I remember when I took Google's technical writing course, I learned so much. I was like, okay, where has this been all my life? And it definitely helped me improve on my writing skill. So I totally recommend taking Google's technical writing course or any other awesome technical writing course as well. And then the next step is to read. It's extremely important to read because when you read, you discover better ways to express yourself. You find new words to like talk about your what you're experiencing or what you've learned with your audience. And there is this interesting quote by Lisa C that says, "Read 1,000 books, and your words will flow like a river." That means the more you read, the more you find new words, the more you see new words, like discover new words that you can like share in your writing. Maybe it's making a tweet, maybe it's communicating with people. Reading helps you a lot. And then the third step is to write. Remember that quote that I said you only learn how to write by writing? Yeah, this is the author of the quote. So it's like even if you take 100 technical writing courses and read 1,000 books, you won't learn how to write except you actually start writing. Those things help you, those things make you become a better writer. But the actual core skill is actually writing, and you can only learn that by writing. This is similar to coding as well. Watch all the tutorials, read all the articles. They help you understand things better, they help you explain certain concepts better. But you only learn how to code when you actually put yourself down and actually start coding. So that's what writing is as well. So here are some interesting tips that I have been using over the years that has helped me in writing. I'm going to share that with you as well. So the first one is following a style guide. I also didn't know about this until I took that technical writing course by Google. So there are awesome style guides. FreeCodeCamp has a style guide, which is absolutely fantastic. There's also Google style guide. There's also Microsoft as well. This style guide will help you know what to do at certain points. Your article should have an introduction. Your article should have a summary. Your article should have headings written in specific ways, right? So that it helps your users understand certain things. And because people don't know this, most articles are not very easy to assimilate. You could just bump into an article and you're just like, okay, next one, please, because you don't really understand what's happening. So following a style guide will help you craft your article in a better way. The next one is try to ensure that your paragraph supports a single idea. Let's talk about the airports again. So if a particular airport is about, sorry, a particular paragraph is about the casing of the airport, it should only be about the casing of the airport, right? So the next paragraph can now be about the actual airport itself. I don't know if that makes sense. So instead of trying to merge every single thing inside one paragraph, split it. Don't cram every single thing in there because it makes it easier for people to understand what you're trying to say. Oh, hey, she's talking about airports casing here. Makes sense. Oh, she's talking about the actual airport here. Awesome. And then you can move on over time. And then always remember that simplicity is the ultimate sophistication. It's fantastic to know big words and like great words. It's absolutely great. But then always think about your readers. Would they understand this word you're using? Are they possibly as smart as you are to understand this thing? Do they have the context that you have to understand this thing as well? And if you don't think they do, or you think, okay, maybe there's one person that might not, either remove that word or add a link that explains the meaning of that thing you're trying to say. And the fourth thing is, after writing your first draft, read your contents like you are the reader. So when you finish writing your first draft, take a step back and like pretend to be the person who wants to read your article, right? So let's say Sam writes an article, yeah, and if they did your, I am coming to read that article, I am the reader. So what if Sam pretends to be me and reads that article? He would see that there are certain things that I may not have understood, or there are things that he should have explained better that would have made me understand what he was trying to say. So when you pretend to be the reader, you'd see different things you could improve upon, or different things you could like shorten or make to be more um descriptive for your reader. Then the fifth one is try to edit your first draft when you're focused. I mean, we all know what first draft is, right? First draft is the when you want to write an article, the first time you completed that article, that's your first draft. After you've completed the article, don't rush to publish it immediately. Take some time off. It could be like 30 minutes, a day, 2 days. Well, I think 2 days is too much. So don't take 2 days so it doesn't stop you from publishing the article. But take as much time as you need off that particular draft and then come back a few minutes or hours later to review it. That way you'd see things that you possibly didn't take note of while you were still writing. You see typos, better way to express yourself, or some things you could actually just remove to make the article a bit more straight to the point. And then the sixth one is always try to share your article with people who are experts in that field or people who also know what you know. So let's say I'm writing an article about CSS. Yeah, I know CSS, but what if I share that article with Sam, for instance, who also knows about CSS? He might help me spot something that I mistakenly said or an assumption that I made, right? And then I can fix that assumption. And aside from that, if you also have someone who is really knowledgeable about technical writing, you could also send it to that person as well. Then, second to the last, always try to proofread your article after you've written it and then publish it. Don't let it stay in the draft. Don't be worried that people will not read it. That's not a problem. If nobody reads it, your future self might probably need that article, or someone out there would read the article. So always publish every single draft you've written. Awesome. So we've talked about how you should take a technical writing course, you should read, and also you should write. The final thing here is for you to stay consistent. It's awesome to start. You are hyperactive, you want to get the benefits, it's great. But then if you don't stay consistent at writing, you won't actually become better, right? You won't become a better writer. You become better at that, maybe that programming language or that skill you're trying to learn through writing. So you need to do it consistently. And a great way to do this is to use the Hashnode 2 Articles 1 Week Challenge. Is absolutely great. It will help you learn how to write consistently. And there's also like a great community who could like encourage you and support you during the journey. And then you realize that in the span of like, let's say 1 month, you've been able to write over 8 articles or less, depending on the time you have. But then if you can do that, it means that when you realize that, oh, you can actually write 8 articles in 1 month, then you're actually a badass. And it would probably make you maybe write 2 next month or 1 next month or something. But then it would make you consistent enough to continue writing over time. Yeah, there are tons of career opportunities for technical writing. Glassdoor, sometime last year, Glassdoor said that most technical writers make between $40K to $80K annually on an average, right? That's like on the average level. So you could earn more than that if you want to work as an actual technical writer. And then if you just want to continue writing as a core software developer, there are different companies that will pay you between $100 to like over $2,000 to write an article for them. I mean, just think of it this way. Imagine being able to write like 2 articles for a company that pays $500 per article. It means that you're able to make $1,000 from writing 2 articles. And you're not just making money from those articles, you're also learning something new or reinforcing your learning in the process. So if I write 2 things about React, it means that I had to like research more about that thing. So I'm not just making $1K, I'm also really understood something a lot more. I've also put an article out there. Let's say if I want a new job, my potential employer can say, oh, hey, this girl writes, right? So she knows well enough to write. And then it could give me an opportunity from that, right? I'm going to share links to this my slide. So if you click here, you'd see, you go to like a repository that will show you different organizations that could pay you to write articles for them. Again, you don't have to necessarily be paid to. You could also write articles on your personal blog and grow over time. Sometimes someone could see that article and say, hey, I really love this your article, or love you to work for me or something. But generally, to get paid to write articles, you need to show proof that you've already been writing articles over time. And what that means is you could create your blog on Hashnode and start writing articles and become better and good enough to apply to these companies to accept you as a technical writer or like a staff writer. Then there's also another program from Google titled Google Season of Docs that pays technical writers money to contribute to an open source organization. So sometime in 2019, they used to pay $3,000 to participants, depending on your country. So in Nigeria, I think it was $3,000 to contribute for for 3 months. But as at last year, they increased it a lot more. There were companies paying people over $15,000 to contribute for 3 months. So imagine that you don't just make money, you contribute to an open source organization that thousands of people are using. You also build good relationships with the maintainers of that organization. So it's not just one thing, it's like lots and lots and lots of other opportunities. You can also use that experience to say, hey, I've been writing for this organization for 3 months. This is why you should hire me. I mean, so an instance would be, I got accepted into the Google Season of Docs program in 2019 to work for VLC. And then VLC is VLC Media Player. I don't know if anybody knows that application. Was like an application that I used to use while I was like in high school. I've used that application for like a really, really long time. So imagine the fact that I now get to contribute to an application that I've been using since I was like really, really young. It was amazing. And then not just that, now be able to have like actual conversations with the president of that organization, yeah, then still get paid to contribute because I knew how to write. And then if I ever need a recommendation, I could always send a message to the president and say, hey, can you help me write a recommendation for me? And anybody who sees a recommendation from VLC, which has over 3 billion users, right, would say, okay, hey, maybe this girl actually knows what she's doing. So what I'm trying to say here is writing is absolutely fantastic for you. Are you a beginner who is trying to learn? Please go ahead and start writing. You don't have to be super smart. You don't have to know everything yet. Writing, like Quincy said, it gives you the beginner's perspective. It gives you a way to see things that experts would not see, right? And then once you explain those things, you reach tons of audience. You learn, you become better, you assess opportunities and so much more. And thankfully, you have platforms like Hashnode where you don't need to be popular on social media to get readership. Just create your blog, publish it, and then you see that you still get views on those articles as well. In conclusion, writers have a great benefit of becoming lifelong learners because they need to be well versed in particular skill they are teaching to be able to teach it to somebody else. Like Albert Einstein said, they need to be able to explain it to a 6-year-old to actually know that they understand it. They need to learn how to do something to explain it to other people. And the more you keep doing this, the more smarter you become, the more you understand certain things that other people may not have understood, right? Maybe they'll just understand it on the surface level, but you, because you wrote an article, went a lot deeper. So you understand it a lot better than other people who didn't write articles about them. I will leave you with one quote by Chinua Achebe, who is a fantastic writer, who says that I believe that a good writer doesn't really need anything except to be told to keep at it. So if for some reason you decide to start writing today or maybe continue from where you stop, my final advice to you is to keep at it. Don't just start and then stop. Keep writing. There are so many opportunities, so many benefits that it could do for you as a software developer or someone who just wants to focus directly on technical writing. Oh, thank you. This would be a good time to ask questions. You can follow me on Twitter at DidiCodes or check out my blog at edidiongasikpo.com. Thank you so much for joining the session.
Awesome. Didi, thank you so much. That was incredibly enlightening. Very useful stuff. While we've still got you here, we've got about 10, 15 minutes before you've got to get out of here. So let's move over to Q&A. I'll pull up some questions for us. Let's take a look here. Wow, we've got quite a few questions. Wow. Okay, cool. Let's see. Oh, here's a good one. Okay. Let me just pull this up. We'll show this on stage. So, how good do you need to be at English in order to be a good technical writer?
Well, I think good enough to be able to explain things to people. Can you remember I mentioned that the first skill you need to have as a technical writer is being able to write. So can you write? And like I said, writing is communicating with people. Can you communicate in English? Then it definitely means that you're good enough to write thing in English, right? And then I mean it mustn't just be in English. You have people who speak your language. Maybe you could say, okay, hey, I'm not so great at English, but then I'm going to write to improve my English language or my knowledge of English, but then I could also still write for my local audience, maybe people speaking your language and stuff. But I don't think anything should stop you really. There are like platforms who help you like check your English, like Grammarly, for instance. So just do as much as you can, keep writing, and over time you'd see that you would improve. I mean, you could write as a way of just learning English. That could be like your goal really, and that would definitely help.
Cool. Yeah, I think that's great advice. And for what it's worth, I am one of the only native English speakers on the Hashnode crew. So if we can build a blogging platform with only a couple native English speakers, I think you'll be fine.
Yes, exactly.
Cool. Here's another one we can pull up. This question has been asked a few different ways, but I'll pull this one from Yuri Codespot. Says, how can you overcome imposter syndrome when you're starting to write?
Hmm. Well, I mean, I don't think people ever overcome imposter syndrome. I just think it's something that will always be there. Even the smartest people have like definitely feel like imposters some of the time. But then I like to think that what I would say is remember that you're not alone. Everybody at some point in their life feel like imposters, right? They feel like, oh, maybe I'm not doing this well enough. Nobody understand what I'm saying, or someone will come and tell me I'm not explaining it in the right way. So what I'll say is remember first of all that you are not alone, and just still put it out there. Like literally just publish the article. Again, writing is yes to share knowledge with people, but it is also for you to learn about certain things, also for you to become a better at, let's say, a language or a framework or whatever. So even if you feel like nobody will read your article, you learn something new. You've learned something in a better way, right? Then you've also written for your future self because you may forget. Our brains are fantastic, but then they can't always remember every single thing, right? So you could literally go back to that your article and find out something you've been trying to like remember. And who best would you understand something from than yourself? Something that you literally wrote by yourself. You understand it a lot better than reading, let's say, what I wrote, for instance. So writing is not just for other people to learn, it's also for you as well. So don't forget that.
Yeah, I think that's a great answer. Let's get another one up here. Oh, this is a good one. Comes in from Hari, who says, how many articles do you think it's possible to write in a month while also maintaining quality?
To be honest, I can't really give an answer to that because I feel like different things work for different people, right? So it depends on your schedule. For me, I don't think I can necessarily write up to 8 articles in 1 month because of my schedule. I mean, it's possible if I decide to, like, okay, I'm going to do this, I must do this. But then quality articles for me in like a month could possibly be two because of my schedule. It doesn't mean that is the answer. For you, it can be five. Are you trying to, let's say, he's like let's say 30 articles in a year? Then you can decide to write like four, right? And still maintain quality. So for instance, the 2 articles 1 week challenge by Hashnode makes you write 2 articles in 1 week. And I've seen so many people participate in that challenge, writing fantastic quality, really great articles, right? Someone would have thought, it's not possible to write 2 good articles in 1 week, but people are doing it, right? So it all depends on you and your capability, your schedule, what you think you can do, right? Don't overwhelm yourself, but then also try to push yourself as well. So it could be anything. I wouldn't necessarily give a specific answer to that. I'm sorry, I wish I could, but I can't.
No, I think that's good advice. It's one of those big it depends questions. I'm personally of the
Exactly.
camp that I never want to sacrifice quality for quantity. So
Exactly.
if I'm just writing something to get another blog post out, then it's probably not going to be that good. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm better off just waiting until a better idea comes around.
Yeah.
Let's get another one up here. This one says, how do you deal with the frustration that comes with people not loving your write-ups? You put so much work and mental energy into creating the work and you don't get good reactions. What do you do?
Hmm. I think again, it's important to remember that yes, you're writing to help people, but then you're also writing for yourself. So I know it's really awesome and great to see people interact with your work and say they love your work and all of that. But then that should not be your goal. Your goal should be to help people, right? So if you feel like, okay, I'm writing to help people, but then you're also writing for yourself, then that should not be your goal. Your goal should be to share your knowledge, yes. But then if nobody reads it, then always don't forget that you now learned something new. Don't forget that you now understand something a lot better. Don't forget that you've also written for your future self, who would most likely forget that information in the future. And then sometimes I think we necessarily give up quickly. When you start writing, especially if you don't have, so think of it this way: everybody who has lots of following on, let's say, Hashnode, started somewhere. Their first article, maybe nobody read it. Everybody who has 100K followers on Twitter started somewhere. They probably had zero followers at some point. So when you start doing something, chances are nobody might see what you're doing. Nobody might say, "Oh my God, nice article, thank you." But then it doesn't mean that someone will not in the future. Trust me, somebody will. If you can send the article to me, I will like it and tell you, "Oh my God, thank you." So somebody will definitely appreciate you one day. Like there is no way on earth that you tell me that if you don't stay consistently at doing that thing, writing that article, someone would appreciate you one day. Even if it's nobody, you would like tell yourself, okay, I've done really well, thank you, because you now understand things a lot better. You've improved your writing skill. You now know how to speak English a lot better through writing, and like tons and tons of other things. You can even decide to apply to an application or an organization that will pay you to write and start making money as well. Nobody needs to come and tell you, "Oh my God, nice article," when you're getting the $500 in your account. I mean,
Yeah, I think that's great advice. Yeah, it's like you don't have to be a popular writer
mm-hmm,
personally to go out and find good opportunities and make good money as a writer. Let's
exactly.
while we've still got time, let's do one or two more of these questions.
Yeah.
This one, let's see. I like this one. This is an interesting question from Daniel, who asks, should the audience be defined per article or for the whole blog? So I guess he's saying like, do you think each individual article could have a different audience, or should your blog be focused at one particular audience?
Yeah, that's a very nice and interesting question. I think it could be both, right? You could decide that, hey, you want to write articles about just web development because you're a web developer. So that means now your blog has an audience of web developers. Yeah. Then specific articles could now be targeted at beginners or intermediates or experts. So you could do it on both ways or on one of them. So both ways would mean giving your blog a certain audience, could be web development for beginners or just web development. And then more specifically, hey, this web development article is for beginners and this one is for experts or is for intermediates, right? That's if you're following the general flow and then coming back. But then if you just want to make the general flow of the whole blog and say web development for beginners, it means you don't need to now do that in your articles as well, because you've already chosen your audience of your blog in general to be web development for beginners.
Cool. Yeah, I think that's great advice also. One thing I would add to that is that over on Hashnode, of course, we have the series feature, which makes it really
Yeah.
easy to group together related posts. So, for example, on my blog, I talk about freelancing, I talk about content creation, and I also talk about web development. And so I have series for each of those topics, which makes it a little easier to keep things organized and make it simple for readers to find what you're looking for or what they're looking for.
Plus one makes a lot of sense.
Cool. Well, yeah, we're coming up at the top of the hour. I guess we should let you go here. Do you have any final words or parting thoughts before we wrap things up here?
Hmm. Final word. I think final words would be to, I mean, go ahead and start. There's really nothing stopping you. If you started at some point and stopped, you can always continue again. Like create a blog on Hashnode, start writing. Don't be so concerned about like number of engagements you get, because it will definitely come. But then your first goal at the moment should be, how is writing improving me? How am I becoming a better speaker, a better communicator, right? Can I write well enough to even now send emails in the right way? There are like tons of benefits that are not only tied to the audience or like plenty of people reviewing or saying they love your work. So just go ahead and start, and trust me, people would definitely find you one day and appreciate the work you're doing.
Amazing. Yeah, I could not agree more. Thank you so much, Didi, for being here. This has been a pleasure.
Thank you for having me. Thank you, everyone.
All right, take care. All right, folks. That is the end of day one, but we've got lots of fun stuff coming as we continue on. One thing, if you're not aware, we're going to be giving out writing prompts at the end of each of these sessions as a way to, yeah, get the juices flowing, get you thinking, get you honing your craft, and also hopefully, connecting with some other folks and getting some feedback. So after this particular talk, I would love to see lots of blog posts on this following prompt. Um, Please share your path to becoming a writer or becoming interested in writing. How did you get here? What made you decide to take the plunge? Um, yeah, please share your thoughts in blog post form, and be sure to use the hashtag Hashnode Bootcamp so we will see those posts. Ideally, I would love to see published pieces before the next session, which is Wednesday the 7th, or Wednesday the 15th, rather. So, yeah, tell us about how you got into writing, what motivates you to be a writer, anything along those lines. And yeah, use that hashtag Hashnode Bootcamp so we'll see it. Um, the other thing, I'll be looking at that hashtag. Other members of our crew will be paying attention to that hashtag. I would also encourage all of you to be following along with the Hashnode Bootcamp tag. Um, yeah, I would love to see some community engagement. People commenting on each other's posts, getting to know each other from this boot camp. Yeah, and cultivating some relationships. So please hang out at hashtag Hashnode Bootcamp and see what everybody else is doing. Um, Next time around, Wednesday at 3 p.m. UTC, we are going to be joined by, and I don't want to get it wrong, who's our next guest? Our next guest is none other than Chris Bongers, who is going to share with us how he comes up with ideas for articles and how to stay consistent as a writer. This fella, if you're not familiar, he has written like a bajillion blog posts. It kind of boggles the mind how much he manages to write. So I think he's got a lot of really interesting stuff to share about how you can be more consistent and generate a lot of output. So yeah, that's about it for this time around. I should also note that next time, and for all of these sessions, you'll use that same link that you used to get here. So definitely hang on to that. It'll be the same for each of these sessions. And I believe that is it for today. So thank you all so much. This is a dream come true. This boot camp, I've been really busting my butt behind the scenes for many weeks now to pull this all together, as has everybody else on our crew. So we are just thrilled that this is happening and that you all are here. So yeah, I will see you at hashtag Hashnode Bootcamp over on Hashnode. And until next time, take care. Have a good one.